Moving forward for our next panel, we're going to be talking about how the future is decentralized and Puerto Rico as a transformative tech launching pad. And I'd like to introduce the next panelist. You guys can come up to the stage while I introduce you. We have Brian, who's a serial entrepreneur, ecosystem builder with a diverse background in launching companies across industries such as hardware, blockchain, technology, textiles, and events. He's been doing all the chats outside. We have Ryan Condron, with over 2 decades of software engineering experience, CEO of Titan in the Bitcoin mining technology sector. We have Alana, who is a Puerto Rican filmmaker with experience producing and directing videos at Google and a background in Silicon Valley's tech industry. She founded Campo in 2021, a production company here in Puerto Rico. And I'm happy to say that her new film is going to debut on October 31st here in Catalina Cinema, so you have to go and check that out. And lastly, we have James Haft, co-founder of DES, which is the Decentralized AI Society. His company, PALcapital, they focus exclusively on digitizing businesses since 1996, and he's also co-founded Crypto One Day. So please help me welcome them.
All right, we'll kick this off. I'm Brian, by the way. So just a little background on this. I've been on the island full-time working on different projects, I would say in the decentralized space for the last 7 years, right after Hurricane up. And it's something that I'm super passionate about, but I've also been able to see how it can positively not just affect the island, but the entire world. And I want to have 3 stellar people who are also doing the same thing from Puerto Rico. And if there's nothing else that I want you guys to come away with, is that 1, the future is decentralized, and we'll give a little bit into what's decentralized. And 2, a lot of innovation in the decentralized world comes from Puerto Rico that you may not know about. So to start out, I just kind of want to start with Brian working this way. It's 2 minutes on kind of background and how you fit into innovation within the decentralized world.
All right. Congrats. All right. My name is Ryan Condron. I've been in Puerto Rico for 3 years now. I was invited down here by a friend. I stayed with him for a few days, and I quickly realized that I knew more people within a 20-minute drive than anywhere else on Earth. And I thought, well, if all my friends are down here, why not? Also, I got into Bitcoin mining in 2012. I thought I was incredibly late at the time. I've been a software engineer for the last 20 years, and I started writing a lot of software early on. So I ran about 80 different mining tools from 13, 14, 15. I worked on decentralized running applications. I architected a decentralized I truly do believe that the future is decentralized, and a lot of that is because I know in government to take less control over time, and a natural aversion to control.
Every time a new technology, there are these groundbreaking technologies that decentralize highly central points. So when the printing press came out, suddenly people could read the Bible themselves versus have to have somebody read the manuscript, read it to them. They could now have that direct connection. And religion spread in a very decentralized way, and it happened much faster once the printing press began. The internet decentralized media production. So you now have anybody with a phone is a journalist and can contribute to the news in a way that before the news was very centralized. And so every once in a while, technology comes along that just really enables a peer-to-peer interaction, especially now digitally. So this is something that with my background in Silicon Valley and as a Puerto Rican, we have a very strong decentralized network ourselves. We had the Cali weekends in California, and we would get together and, we were a decentralized yet very, very powerful group that was able to help each other out. So decentralization is not anarchism, or it could be, but it's not complete like every man for themselves. It's really every man for this network. And then you gravitate towards the networks that you are interested in building. So I guess I've been talking about myself a lot. I didn't want to talk about myself again, but I just want to say that here in Puerto Rico, we have an opportunity to, you can build anything from anywhere, but I can't think of a better place than here. And I'm really excited to be in this panel with you guys and to be at this point in history here on this island, back home.
I'm James Haft. I've been focusing on the impact of digitization of information center have on humanity, culture, politics, the economy since 1996. And continually, as Alana was basically talking about the historical perspective, as new technologies come around, the existing authorities tends to look at it and say, who needs that? We already have the solution. Who needs the car? So we already have horses, right? Who needs cell phones? We already have telephones and phone booths, right? Who needs the internet? Who's ever going to put their credit card on the internet? And so as you look at these technologies, they tend to rise not because of the support of the existing political and other power centers. They tend to rise because they present an easier way for growth to flow. And so if you look at what's happening right now in the world, the internet and crypto to some extent, the ability to digitize information and value and transact in ways that are not hindered by existing political systems, that's where the growth is going to be. And in Puerto Rico, which is a beautiful place with fantastic people, the only way forward to succeed, I believe, is through growth. And growth will follow the path of least resistance. And right now, the path of least resistance for growth is decentralized systems that enable you to instantly participate in a community and transact and grow. So I see the opportunity here in Puerto Rico to attract the people that are creating these opportunities and to let the local services service those people and those communities that are growing. On one hand, that's how you import talent, import capital. And also on the other side is we need to start educating the local communities so that the people that are coming can understand that they can actually make a living and learn and become part of growing communities through the internet and through these decentralized systems, so that they don't have to be focused on the old forms of service. Nobody wants to work at McDonald's, right? You want to create knowledge businesses. And so we need to learn and educate the local community that there's opportunity here and that it's not us versus them, but it's the opportunity for us actually to take control of our own destiny.
Well said. And I agree on that. So when we went through the pandemic, we now had a lot more people remote working. I was remote working for a long time, and then came here and we're still remote working, and then started working with the rest of Puerto Rico. But a lot of people, if not the majority that moved down here and that have been here the whole time, but especially after the pandemic, are at least in a hybrid or decentralized manner. And for hiring across the board, whether the company's using decentralized technologies or not, the world is decentralizing more because you can work from anywhere. The more connected we get as a world, the more dispersed we're going to be. And we need to shift. Governments especially need to wake up and shift to address that. And like James was saying, is we're in a perfect position here in Puerto Rico to kind of lead with that. It's still early. Some jurisdictions are already doing a good job. We have a chance, and we already have a lot of the people who are the best in the space and working in decentralized management in a decentralized manner that are more than happy to help and connect or advise governments or other groups or companies in how it can work. Now, we'll come back to this in a second and kind of end with aspects of how this touches Puerto Rico specifically. But I want to take a step back. Brian, in some of your presentations at other events that you've been at, I've actually loved your presentation. I probably should have sent you your whole one, but we'll save that for another time. come to Puerto Rico blockchain maybe in December, then maybe you can see something. But can you just walk through some of the highlights of what you've been sharing, just to help everyone have a little bit more of a baseline from the importance of decentralization, and then tie it into Morpheus, which a couple of us have been contributing to for a while.
Yeah, that's a deep rabbit hole. I'll start by saying that here in Puerto Rico, between Act 20, Act 22, and Act 60, it created an environment to attract a very large amount of successful, knowledgeable people that specialize in one tech areas, right? And all these people are within 20-minute drive. A lot of the latest and greatest or state-of-the-art technologies, whether it's blockchain or AI or aerospace or whatever, is actually coming from brains within 20 minutes of here. That's a crazy thought. When you have some of the country's most successful, smartest, accomplished people all coming to a central area. Now we just need to coordinate and build some really good stuff. But Brian presentations, I often will fixate on the trend towards decentralization and the need of it based on censorship resistance, based on a statement I made earlier where you never actually see a government. Unfortunately, throughout time, throughout history, we've seen governments through one belief or another think that they're doing a greater good for humanity by taking more control, by creating more laws. Oftentimes, as a country progresses, that creates greater amounts of censorship, greater amounts of oppression on certain industries, and we're seeing that even in the financial spaces, the blockchain spaces, now the AI spaces, which we're talking about restricting the type of information that AI can work with. If you use ChatGPT, you try to ask it a question as simple as, what were the carbon emissions or the carbon dioxide emissions of the 3 leading countries in the world over the past 3 years? It will start to answer you, but when you start pushing for details, you'll hit a firewall. It'll say, go to this government website for the latest information. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, no, I want to know, how much carbon dioxide did China produce over the past 3 years? Go to this government website. How much did the US produce? Go to this government website. I'm starting to realize that even in the first attestations of this technology, it's being heavily censored and heavily controlled. Now, enter Morpheus. Morpheus is this vision for a decentralized AI ecosystem where anyone that can train a model that's censorship resistant or very highly specific information can release that model in a completely anonymous and completely decentralized way and be compensated for it. So the vision is that information is free. It's taking the shackles off of access. So that's really my passion towards working on Morpheus, is this idea that the more we see governments start sending, trying to censor information, trying to censor technology, we can actively use decentralized networks and open source code to build better systems that can't be controlled, that can't be censored, that can't be shut down. And much like religion, the moment you have the printing press and then the Bible is out there, there's no stopping it.
Yeah, that's it. I'd say a lot of the people who fall down the decentralization rabbit hole, the Bitcoin rabbit hole, whichever rabbit hole you're falling down, many times it comes from the pain points. And I say the evangelists for anything. Like, for example, myself, I came across Bitcoin in 2011 with my co-captain on the rugby team, and I just had all my Wells Fargo bank accounts shut down erroneously. And they apologized. They said that they couldn't open it again. But they left a credit card that I never signed up for open. So it's technically something. But I was really annoyed that I was fresh. I was like, wait, I can have money or transfer value. It's not just going to randomly or erroneously be shut down or controlled or taken away. And that was very interesting to me. and got me going in Bitcoin initially. I was willing to spend it in 2012, but that's a different story. But on that front, that really got me down the decentralized rabbit hole. Even down to things like crowdfunding. I've worked in the crowdfunding space for over a decade. I launched a lot of the earliest capital raising funding platforms after the Jobs Act became a deal. What are you doing? You're raising from a lot of different people, which, although you have public companies, when you look at how many individuals make up the cap table of a public company, it's like minuscule compared to a BlackRock or some big company coming in. But when you have crowdfunding projects, granted it's not for every company, but for the ones that make sense, you literally have hundreds, if not thousands of evangelists all over the world who believe in what you're doing. And that's how I raised capital from the last couple of companies. And I turned into having literally hundreds, if not a couple thousand evangelists, marketing, selling, offering to help in any way they can, providing products feedback. And that was super powerful. And it was very decentralized. There were people all over the place. I bet maybe 0.5% of the investors who invested in our startup and almost even a public company. So like, there's a lot of ways to think about decentralization. So we're giving you some different examples. And on that, Alana, talk a little bit more. I mean, you have your documentary, tell us quickly what it is, but I want you to go into some of your experiences, what you found in exploring going down the Bitcoin mining path.
Well, there's two different hats. I'm the director and the producer. So as a director, I can tell you where the story led me, and it led me to 4 different continents where Bitcoin mining is a energy intensive, like it consumes a lot of electricity, but it can consume it anywhere. And I have done some work for Google Cloud, so I was very familiar with data centers. The data centers need to have like 100% uptime with like as many redundancies as possible to ensure 100% uptime. But Bitcoin miners can turn off. I say this as I have 2 miners next to me, so you know this is wonderful. Bitcoin mining can turn off as the needs of the grid need the electricity, or maybe you're mining off solar and it's nighttime and you can just basically turn off. A data center can't do that because again, you don't have the 100% uptime. So miners then have become a very interesting customer of electricity because they require a large amount at the cheapest price that you can get it, and that can be in the middle of nowhere because they don't need to be connected to a fiber optic cable that is going across the ocean to other countries, such as other data centers. So it's like a data center, but also very different. And what makes it different is exactly what makes it so fascinating, because there's a lot of countries that have stranded energy. So like Paraguay, they have Libre, which is a huge water dam that's producing a ton of electricity, and most of it's going to waste. And you have places like Malawi, which is another landlocked country, who wants to have a factory in the middle of a continent and then have to pay excise tax every single time you cross the border. These are countries that have been left behind by the industrial age. There was no industrial load coming, knocking on their door, hey, can we have your super cheap electricity? But Bitcoin miners were like, yes, actually, I'll go ahead and buy it, and I'll buy it as much as you can give me. And so now these countries have a customer of electricity that they've never had before, that are willing to come to the country and say, we're going to build a substation, we're going to help you build transmission lines so that we can access that stranded energy, and we can have a portion and the community can have another portion. And it has completely shifted the dynamics and the economics in countries that if it weren't for a customer like Bitcoin mining, they wouldn't have a customer at all.
So again, to build on Alana's point, I believe the world is fractals, things that represent each other. If you understand one concept, usually the concepts around it are similar, if not the same. So Bitcoin is just an example of a decentralized business model. And the future, because of the tools we have for communication and accounting and moving data and value around the world using decentralized platforms in existence, if you're a business person in Puerto Rico, the opportunity for growth is much greater on a global scale than it is local here in Puerto Rico. And if you can start to take your services and your business and tap into the stream of opportunities like Bitcoin mining, but like AI or any of the other service-oriented businesses that are coming out there, you can build a modular piece that serves the people who are participating in those markets. There's a very easy, frictionless way to join into bigger economies than the local economy and to draw back more value here, which was the purpose of Act 60 and Act 22. It's export services. It's taking our abilities here and servicing a bigger audience and then driving those revenues through our system to make our system bigger and to allow there to be more capital to support more people and more opportunity. And so I think that's really why this phrase, the future is decentralized is important, is to understand how it unlocks opportunity in a frictionless way with very low costs, and enables us to be part of a much bigger community than just Puerto Rico.
So, you started talking about Bitcoin mining. Sorry, I'm gonna jump in here. There's 60, 70 people in this room. How much do you guys pay for electricity, per kilowatt hour? Somewhere between 30 and 34 cents, somewhere there. It's one of the most expensive electricity rates in the country or the United States and territories, right? Because generation costs are so high. A lot of people realize that you don't generate electricity until someone actually is using it. So electricity isn't just there and you flip on your lights and just, it is using water in a pipe. Electricity works a little different. Electricity actually does not exist until you flip on your light, and that's when it can start being generated. So that's why electricity is so expensive here, is because the consumption of electricity is very irregular. And Bitcoin mining is a very regulated use of electricity. If I could say anything for the island, and what I'm just going to boil it down very, very simply, that if we brought Bitcoin mining to Puerto Rico, one, the current infrastructure wouldn't work. But if we did create a micro infrastructure with a nuclear plant or a reactor or some other type of generation source and balance it with Bitcoin mining, we can drive electricity prices down to sub 1 cent levels on the island. Now, you want to talk about a capital injection in your economy. You put $500 back in the pocket every month of the individuals during the summer because everyone's running crazy. You're going to have to spend $500,000 a month on air conditioning. That's a crazy stimulus to your economy. And that is what Bitcoin mining can do because it actually balances out your electric grid. And this isn't just hot air. They're actually doing this over in Nigeria right now, where they dropped one cargo container of miners over on the microgrid in Nigeria, and they immediately improved the grid stability from 50% up to 85%. They plugged in a second container, and now the grid stability is over 95%. So it just keeps being better and better, and now they're driving electricity prices in the African communities, which allows farmers to run the pumps longer, which gives them more crops, which feeds their cattle, which makes the cattle fatter, that sell more at market, it stimulates their economy, and then they're in an upward spiral and stimulus. So we want to see change in Puerto Rico. Bitcoin mining is a great place to start.
Awesome. Did you have something you want to jump in on that, or are you good?
I completely agree, and it's like you said, it's not hot air. It's happening in Texas, it's happening in El Salvador, it's happening in Paraguay, it's happening in Uruguay, and the countries, it's happening in Bhutan. I can just keep going. The companies that understand, the countries that understand, and the sovereign wealth funds that understand the opportunity and are not being derailed by the flood, the fear, and the black propaganda against. By the way, my movie is a documentary on Bitcoin mining. It's called Dirty Coin, because there's this. Everybody knows Bitcoin is bad for the environment, but it's actually unlocking human potential in a way that this world has never seen before. It's almost too good to be true. I had to actually go and visit the places myself to see, is this real? And it is. And so those countries like Paraguay that kind of got the memo early, and started playing well early, you can tell that their infrastructure is that much better because of it. And GDP is tied to energy consumption. So this is something that is really important to know. We don't want less energy, we want more and cheaper energy. And there are new solutions that require a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get it, it can really be a game changer. And so the countries right now that are kind of hesitant, they're just going to lose that business and all of that capital. Miners spend millions of dollars a month on electricity. Imagine having that kind of load on your grid from a customer that's willing to turn off when you tell them to or her to. You know, factory can't just, hey, we have a peak demand, it's really, really cold, there's a blizzard, we need you to turn off your factory right away. The factory takes much longer to turn off their production. But a Bitcoin miner, within seconds, they can be off. And suddenly all of that electricity that they are paying for is suddenly available. And so it's a predictable customer for the utility. And yes, I would also love to get more people in local and energy to understand the opportunities that Bitcoin mining can have a bit more. And as a country, if we're paying for it, we can also start basically buying Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin at a discount, and using the value of Bitcoin going up to help pay off our debt. And this is something Senator Cynthia Lummis is proposing for the United States, which is to have a Bitcoin fund that as Bitcoin goes up, the value of that will only ever be sold to settle the US national debt. So there are already countries that are discussing this, that are doing this. So it's really just a matter of time of when people are going to catch up.
For sure. So to wrap up this Bitcoin part, and we'll move on to something else. And you guys would know the stats further than I would, but Bitcoin mining is one of the biggest drivers of renewable energy and other clean energy sources, at least in some of the places that I've seen. Is that accurate? So when you talk about producing more energy or anything else, it's actually capitalizing in an actually sustainable way innovation within energy better than a government subsidy or a mandate or anything like that. It's literally bringing a business use case that's helping save less grids and all the stuff that we just heard, but it's actually getting us to have better, more diverse energy sources, which is going to be better for everyone, which
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance to that. Sorry, we're like hijacking the thing now, Bitcoin mining, but the reality is that there is no actual technology to scale renewable power grids because you have to have something take the load, right? You have to have something actually use the electricity to scale a renewable power grid. Norway is finding this out, Germany is finding this out, they're all realizing that you cannot scale a renewable power grid without a constant load. Bitcoin is the only thing on Earth. The Bitcoin mining right now is the only process on Earth that can scale with a renewable power grid, and you can turn it off without any extreme adverse consequences. That's the key, because you take a ridiculous amount of electricity, but you can't just turn it off without adverse consequences. When you just turn off AI computing, you completely lose all of your data and all of the work done up to that point. With Bitcoin mining, you can turn off the work at any point and you can turn it back on at any point. That's the key difference. So someone said earlier that there were only 2 data centers, I think, on this island. The reason why there are going to be more data centers is because the stability of the power grid. You're not going to get a scalable power grid without something like Bitcoin mining, and you're not going to bring more AI compute and more AI resources on the island unless you invest in more infrastructure.
So if you're going to work on data centers, have some tagging on Bitcoin mining to go along with it. Now I want to shift that over. These are examples of something else I want to hit on and bring it back to where I think Puerto Rico's very well in this issue. Is I'm a firm believer that innovation and human ingenuity can solve most things. Not everything, but most things we can figure out and actually innovate through. It's not mandated. It's not forced on anyone. Allowing innovation to flourish and freedom in that aspect, I'm a firm believer it will create much better solutions for almost anything that we have. And that can be applied to everything we just talked about, but also it fits perfectly with decentralization. Because again, I think it might have been James Haft said, following the path of least resistance. I mean, obviously, businesses move around to find the path of least resistance. Historically, much more companies left the island to find capital. Now more are starting to find capital here because it's just easier to find somewhere else, even if you had to travel somewhere. So that's the principle that I also believe applies to everything. And here in Puerto Rico, as we said earlier on, we have one way phenomenal smart people and tons of universities and tons of diaspora that would love to come back. We also have a lot of people who came down and subsidized the back community. So we have a brain trust, a hub of some of the smartest, most well-connected, most well-resourced, and willing to collaborate people in the entire world in one place. And I think that's the type of person that, not that we just want to attract, but that we want to raise, that we want to teach our kids, that we want to have it as an education system. We can be a hub of hubs. And we're not going to capture in time. I'm sure there's going to be some things that with manufacturing also have more jobs or other things like that, like robots and AI will also replace a lot of the traditional methods of bringing economic development. Oh, we'll get this big company that should bring thousands of jobs. That's less and less going to be the case. But we want to be the host to those companies that do have people everywhere else, but just the natural cycle of having phenomenal companies and people and businesses is still going to grow the economy. It's going to grow the economy naturally, things that they want, and services, and products, and housing, and everything else. So that's kind of a framework that I would love to see us kind of shift to. And I don't know. So that's just an example that I wanted, if nothing else, to have in everyone's mind. So James, you've worked in a number of different flavors of decentralization. We walked through a couple of those with some of your past projects and things that you think would be interesting, criticized, and scared of.
Well, the thing that brought me to Puerto Rico, it's a kind of interesting journey around decentralization. I'm a New Yorker, lived in New York for 55 years. And when the pandemic came, I moved to Vermont. And in Vermont, top of the mountain, and a lot of snow and animals, I ended up taking a company public in Norway that was focused on decentralized storage using Filecoin protocol. And so I sat and I realized that if I could be in Puerto Rico, if I could be in Vermont, and I could take the company public in Norway, that would be the first decentralized file storage company, then I really didn't need to be in New York anymore. Which is one of my core beliefs. I needed to be in New York. That's where all the energy is, where the banks are, it's where the people are. You know, and David Johnston, who's my good friend and my partner in DLTX, the company we formed, came to Puerto Rico and said, this is the greatest place, and there's incentives and they're supporting entrepreneurship. So I came down here, sat on scene, and moved to Puerto Rico, and then brought the management of DLTX, a Norwegian company with employees on 4 different continents. And we, opened an office next to the Green Hilton, and we're running a company that had global reach, that was listed on a foreign market, and we were doing it from Puerto Rico, with advantages personally, yes, but also advantages for the company. We had no trouble attracting capital, and we're able to employ, buy real estate, pay taxes, employ local employees to come work with us and create growth here in Puerto Rico in a business that was exporting intelligence and services, which were actually being delivered from other continents. And so I've been able to follow that a couple of times, and Morpheus, which, many of us up here are involved in, is a similar type of business. There are people on, I think, at least 4, if not 5 continents who are contributing to Morpheus. A large number of them are here in Puerto Rico because we came here from crypto, honestly. And now it's turning out that the next step after crypto is AI. AI is the operating system for humanity and is really the use case for crypto. And so if you look at growth is a journey, it's not an event. And it's important here, if we want Puerto Rico to thrive, not just survive, we need to create these ways that people in this room can start to understand that this growth is happening. It's a river of opportunity, and then you can put a boat in and go with the flow. rising tide raises all boats. So when I look at, the thing about decentralization and computers and crypto and AI and Bitcoin, all this we're talking about, which is interesting, is that we try and decentralize the ideas, we try and decentralize the assets, but the reality is we're still people, and we still have a physical being, right? And that physical being has to be located someplace. And that physical being, interestingly enough, is very centralized because it is wherever you are. So the opportunity here is to understand how to be at the nexus of these two things that are trends that are happening, which is the decentralization of business and the permissionless, frictionless ways that you can grow in this economy, and then understand that those people prosecuting those opportunities have to be somewhere. And if we can make Puerto Rico attractive to the individuals to be here because it's a wonderful place to live, because it's culturally interesting, and because it's a good place to do business and to enjoy some level of freedom from taxes, that should be shared with everybody on the island, not just people that are coming here, then I think that there's the opportunity to take advantage of these trends and to help Puerto Rico grow.
Absolutely. Before I jump into anything else, something you guys want to say on that front? Otherwise, continuing with what James was just saying, if we're going to try to optimize for the decentralized world, which is coming, whether we like it or not, as Alana says, we can choose where we're going to jump in and kind of ride that wave and how much we're going to benefit from it. It's optimizing for humans. What can we do to make life as easy and good as possible? If we solve for that, even if we don't try to solve all the things at once, no one can. Not the government, not any group, not any company. But even if we just focus, okay, schools, healthcare, obviously energy, we have some very interesting options that I haven't heard anyone else talk about on the energy front. Maybe it's a little too out there, but it's also phenomenally proven. But if they optimize for just people wanting to be here, then it matters less if the company is decentralized in the first place, because we're going to be attracting people naturally, and we're probably going to be attracting some of those people in the world. And I don't just mean attracting, but like staying and keeping and people here and having families be able to grow, have a good life, and have everything they need. And that's something I think about a lot. I'm raising my 4 kids here, and just doing that, something trying to optimize, minimize all the regulations for starting a new company. We've taken some great steps. I think it was succeeded phenomenal because it is actually very broad, and you have the entrepreneur incentive, and you have incentives for agriculture, and a bunch of different things that, from a business standpoint, are open to anyone in the world, regardless. And those are great. But
I wanted to add something to what you were saying, because I completely agree. I mean, and I've been here for 3 years. My office is my walk-in closet in my house. So I work all day from my closet, and then I hang out with my family in the evenings. And that's how I've been building a global film from the island. And there's a lot of us that are doing that. You know, our physical bodies are here, but ultimately everything is happening online. And what I'm going to call out now, Icon, and people like I read the oh, that's over there as well. I'd like to call out events like this that bridge, create a bridge between Puerto Ricans that have been here, that have been building here, that have been like, going through it all here. Not like I am Puerto Rican born and raised, but I was in the United States for 15 years. I wasn't here for Maria. I wasn't here for a lot of things, but a lot of Puerto Ricans did stay behind, but they not behind, but here. And they carried the baton. And what I notice is sometimes the expat community, because, and I kind of am myself a bridge between those two worlds. My family is Puerto Rican, they're from California, and I brought them here. I implore more collaboration, because sometimes the expats stay with the expats and they invest in their own their own global companies and in their own little think tanks. And then, Puerto Ricans have their chambers of commerce. And it is events like this that bring us all together, because I do think that there needs to be a lot more collaboration, because the work is happening, but a lot of that brain trust that has moved here kind of just stays amongst themselves. And I implore to have more events like this, to have more opportunities where we can come together, because I'll often hear an expat saying, somebody in Puerto Rico should really be doing this. And I'm like, actually, I know at least 3 people in Puerto Rico that are doing that. But because there is no communication, there is no, it's like, Puerto Rico should do this, Puerto Rico should do that. It's like, well, they are, and they could use your help. So I want to take this opportunity to thank ICON and to encourage more collaboration and encourage more coming together, because that's where we're going to see a lot of sparks fly.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I've been on that for 3 years. I often tell people the first year was absolutely miserable. The second year was tolerable, and the third year I absolutely loved it. I spent a lot of that time driving all over the island, seeing all different places, meeting a lot of different people, and it's absolutely incredible island. The culture, the people, the communities, just the natural beauty is absolutely insane. And a lot of people will ask, when people move here, like, why did you move here? Like 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, it's the taxes or whatever. Somehow when I moved here, I ended up paying more taxes. I don't know what I did wrong, but the reality is,
Me too.
I'm like, somehow I'm paying more taxes than California. But why am I here? Is because I believe in the island of excellence. I truly believe that this place can be excellent. I actually registered a domain when I first got here called bonitopr.com. I was like, this is going to be a beautiful island. I'm going to create a foundation. I want to work with locals. I want to do all this stuff. I'm still trying to learn Spanish, but it's terrible. Like, I'm just not good at languages. But I have met some of the most brilliant people on this island. I've met some of the most talented people on this island. I've seen some of the most natural beauty on this island anywhere in the country. And I truly think that this island can be not only a cultural hub, but a technological hub and an island of excellence. And that's what I'm here, and that's what I believe. And I really do think through decentralized technologies and really bringing communities together, making people know what's where and like what everyone else is doing, like what ICON is doing. We can achieve that fairly quickly, actually.
Yeah, and in our time's technically up, I want to end with a few stats, and we'll have some time for some questions, I think, unless they let me know.
I want to just sort of say,
Yeah.
I agree with everything that was just said. I do think that we, as a community, need to focus on cutting red tape. There's still too much red tape in Puerto Rico. There's so many different forms, agencies, and that you need to regulation to comply with. It's just incomprehensible, and I think that's, to me, the biggest single break that I have on creating growth and creating jobs and creating wealth is that I always seem to be behind, the 8 ball on some regulatory issue, and I just think that that's something that needs to be addressed.
I agree with that. Although despite those hurdles we're all very familiar with, a couple good things. In the 7 years I've full-time been working on stuff on the island and in economic development, we're in some really good, even exponential growth curves. Number of companies being funded, new companies being started, investment firms that are headquartering here. Instead of having a handful of local ones, we now have over 152 investment agencies, maybe more, depending of different flavors that are at least headquartered here. And hopefully we'll get more of them to be investing directly in the island as well. At least in my small sphere, from the connecting side, we try to do that. I'm not sure if we've had over 5,000 unique individuals visiting from the events over the last 5 years, and I've been able to see connections happen in that way. So, with all of our challenges, I see Puerto Rico in a very good upswing, but we all have to work together and create the world we want to live in. I think Luso says all the time. But our time is up. I think there's time for some questions. So I think I see a hand up there. The lights are bright, so we can't see the super well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Buster-Greenberg. I'm actually a working for my company. And you guys were exactly right. We need to connect to people more. So I'm just going to go out there and I hope Carla and Reggie, this is okay. Join us. We really want to get people together. Typically, I think for some of us is that, in addition to all of our good intentions, we're also parents. right? We have kids to raise, we have a picture their homework is done and they have their baths, whatever, at the end of the day, we're spent. But we have that win. So if we can work together, come join us and help us create more of these events, connect more people. So that's one thing. The other thing is, when you're talking about the roadblock of permits, oh my gosh, right? And in an earlier panel, they were talking about how there is a, for lack of a better term, a cabal of the managing 10 or 15 families on the island who either consciously or unconsciously are the roadblock. That they're the reason why permits take so long. They're the reasons why some politicians are against the acts, because they're concerned about protecting their own businesses. Nobody wants to harm them. But how do we get everybody working together so that they see it as a win-win too, to open things up?
It's not a zero-sum game. We can all win.
Right?
There's no need to gatekeep because there's a finite amount of prosperity. There is an infinite amount. And right now, we can access it. And that's how the future is decentralized. These same families are these centralization points of the past. And that's just, the kings and queens of the past, the feudal system of the past. Ahora arriba the pleb way, we call them plebs, it's solutions are going to come from the bottom up.
But the system doesn't defeat new ideas, the system absorbs them, right? And so the way that we create change is by people following decentralization, for example, following a new path of doing things until it becomes such a rate where the system has no choice but to start to absorb and mimic the new ideas. Because until there's a reason to change, people in power don't change, right? There's just no reason. They already have their gravy train set up. And so what it takes is individual initiative to create opportunities and to create new enterprises that are centralized or decentralized, which are competing with the historic power, and then earn a seat at the table. But it has to be through the work and energy of individuals. And that's what decentralization is all about. And so, what we need is more conferences like this and more community building and consensus building, and to get the government to start to understand the value of loosening their hand off from the reins to allow growth to happen.
And last thing on that, and kind of tying together what you said, join us and all of that. I think if we also have aims to, if there are 15 families or anything like that, I think thinking with a decentralized mindset, like the future of what we have right now, even helping those who are hanging on, and probably it's because they're trying to cling to what they already have and go past that, they can actually grow exponentially more with a different mindset. So literally all of us can be better in adjusting to have a decentralized mindset. Again, not saying change your whole life or anything, but even just the mindset. And that's why this panel, that's why we proposed it. And I'm actually trying to do more panels like this all around the country and world, and non-blockchain, crypto, or whatever events, to see people thinking and talking about it. Because this is important, and it's actually a better way in many cases for all of us to thrive. So we have time for a couple more questions. I can't see, so.
While you're looking for raised hands, I will add to that and say the more I'm in startups, the more I'm in technology, and the more I'm just like, shit, I'm living life. I realize that just about everything in life in this world boils down to sales and marketing. And the more people you have involved in the system, the more important communication is, and the more important marketing and what I'd say sales or vision of what you're trying to do is more important because you're trying to get everyone to move in the same direction. When you have issues like we see in Puerto Rico, a lot of it is because you have this jointed vision and you don't have a clear common goal. So you get a lot of class warfare, a lot of state versus us. And that keeps a dysfunctional culture, dysfunctional society down. If you can create a common vision and you can build a common marketing system around that to get everyone moving in the same direction. And that's what CEOs do. This is what leaders, good leaders do, is they paint a common vision and they get everyone to move towards that common vision. And that's what the science desperately needs. So getting people to work together and communicate, definitely understanding and communicate better. But just getting everyone to move in the same direction That's how we overcome a lot of this.
Okay, are there any other questions? Speak up, because I can see if not, I'll share the piece of information. All right, I'm gonna guess the reason coming out if someone's raised their hand. So in a few more minutes, well, we'll have a couple of minutes. Are there any other parting thoughts that you want to share with the crowd?
I'll start. We talked a lot about Bitcoin mining. The 31st of October, my documentary Dirty Coin is going to be in Galeria cinemas all over Puerto Rico. And you can basically find out more about Bitcoin mining. I produced that movie from here. It is a Puerto Rican film. We have the film decree. So as a producer, earlier I answered with my director hat, but as a producer and basically CEO of a company, a film company that needs to make money, Puerto Rico, I can't think of a better place. I was actually considering Georgia instead of Puerto Rico before moving here. And Puerto Rico was way more competitive in certain areas. Plus I get to be back home. So I'm super happy to talk with more filmmakers about the process. And when I first got here, people were like, Nina, no, don't do that. No, you can't mess with those guys. Oh, no, everything's a headache. And I was like, I don't like that. No, I'm gonna make it not a headache. And it was a headache, but I did it. It can be done. And it's just the first one is the hardest. So if you want to learn about Bitcoin mining, you can go to the theaters. And if you want to learn more about making global movies from Puerto Rico, also come talk to me because I'm really excited to share what I paid my lawyers and my accountants a lot of money to learn in the last few years. So I'm very, very happy to share that information with other producers.
Awesome. So there's one thing I forgot to share. I've spent a lot of time over the last 4 or 5 years trying to value the ecosystem. And some of you may be familiar, so Puerto Rico launched a platform last year, which is a free platform that anyone here where you can see how many startups are there, how many corporates in innovation economy, what are all the co-working spaces, what are all the support organizations, startup jobs, investment groups, funding rounds, like all the things, accelerators, incubators, and whatnot. And doing that was one method of measuring the ecosystem and trying to capture this, which is one of the tough things with centralization because things are not just in one spot, and it's kind of hard to track, at least through traditional methods. So I was trying to think of I could see it that way from like how much a company's worth or the valuation or things like that of what our economy's worth from like a startup innovation side. But then I got to thinking and talking to other experts around the world and starting to look at less known things like code commits to GitHub. Or so like how much code is being created out of Puerto Rico. And it's hard to track every little bit of it, but when you lay that onto like how much revenue companies have and things, we have a phenomenal amount of innovation, or at least creation at a minimum, coming from Puerto Rico. And many of that comes from decentralized projects, especially in blockchain or open source AI. Like you mentioned, many people in the open source AI Morpheus group are here creating some of the most world-changing important foundation technologies from the island. There is no company, there's no official team, but the innovation is insanely valuable and phenomenal. And a lot of that does come from the island. And you can't track it with traditional methods. And all of us in economic development, especially with government for sure, all need to, again, think in a little bit more centralized manner. What does that mean? Just thinking about it. Maybe you don't understand half the stuff that we just set up here. Just that mind shift, I think, is going to have an outsized effect on us personally and collectively as an island. And I see those trends on it. I want to see them as soon as I look up working in every day. But things are happening. I'm so bullish of this one here. All of us are here, quite frankly. So I just want to leave that too, make sure you guys have it in mind. And that there's a lot of ways to plug in, get connected. And the last goal I'll give a mind and changing the motivation with something is I do run a group called Uncommon Entrepreneurs. We do events at least once a month and half over 5 years. As I mentioned, over 5,000 people have come. casual, but it's a great place to meet new people. A lot of you who are here were invited, like, I met you over the years, and it's just a phenomenal place because we have like a cultural world where there are these silos, but there's also collaboration happening. And if you really step back and think about it, that's just an awesome sign. There's so much goodness and innovation and things happening that you can still have silos and connections. So there's an insane amounts of room to grow. And I think almost everyone, including myself, is probably underestimating the potential that we have on the island, especially collectively as people. And I'm still bullish on it. I hope we can all work together moving forward.
Just to ask, college is an excellent example. Get out there and press the flesh and go to real world events and meet people and make relationships. That's where the opportunities come from. I founded Crypto Mondays 5 or 6 years ago in New York City. It's now in 70 cities, in 30 countries. Over 1 million people have attended events around the world, which regularly occur. One of the most active chapters of Crypto Mondays in the world is in Puerto Rico. But it's mostly expat crypto people who get together, who look a lot like us, unfortunately. This is something that needs to change. It's a huge opportunity to mingle with and meet people who are part of this new decentralized economy and create business opportunities. And I would encourage you to go on Instagram. It's Crypto Mondays PR, and come to a meeting with an open mind and just meet people and start talking about what you do to create opportunities in this new decentralized economy.
Awesome. And with that, I just want to thank the team at Icon and all of you. I love being at these events. I love talking and connecting with all of you, and I hope we can continue to do so. And thanks for having us.